There we go. Recording started.
Excellent. This week, I feel I had a revelation about the deepness.
Okay.
I was so upset I couldn't just message you about it right away. And I imagine I felt exactly as Vin felt at the end of last chapter. And I was so into this idea that I went straight to the Discord and I was like, guys, I think I've had a revelation about the deepness. I'm so excited. And then I went to sleep. And I woke up this morning and I was like, is that still a great idea? Yes, it is.
Okay.
Okay. So Brandon Sanderson does a lot of references to linguistics in this chapter, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like he talks about how these ideas might change from generation to generation, like how if the mist only killed a few people, that could have blown into a full-blown panic. Or the language in the logbook in reference to the mist creature and the deepness and so on changing. It occurred to me, what if the word deepness sounds like deep mist?
Yes. The
Yeah.
deep mist. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm with you. Yeah.
Right? So, I don't know if that's a thing, but I feel like that might legitimately be a thing.
That would make sense to me because of how he is talking about how things evolve linguistically. Maybe some people would find that too close or too easy, but there've been revelations like that in books where it's like, no, it just evolved over time and it became this pronunciation, that sort of thing.
Well,
and Brandon Sanderson likes that. He's got that in, I think, Stormlight Archive.
Well, the only way I could see it as being too easy is if there were some foreshadowing that we missed that we will learn about in the future regarding the word deep. If that makes sense.
Then it would be too on like it has to sneak up on us. What are you saying?
I mean, I don't know.
This. Yeah, I'm just waiting.
Yeah, right now I don't know what deep mist could mean. Or how it fits into what we understand of the deepness. So, I don't know. This is very much a shot in the dark, but I just absolutely love this idea of the words deep mist becoming the deepness.
Deepness. Yeah. I see it happening. And it is if that would be your biggest, absolutely biggest called it ever.
It would be the most specific called it ever.
Yeah.
I think.
Both.
Yeah. Other than that, we've got a pretty good chapter here. We've got Sazed back, finally.
Yes. My nerdy Sazed.
Yep. I'm still very frustrated with Quan, who is basically just lamenting his mistakes. Yep.
Yeah, it's like, okay, Quan, you and he on this limited space, he's making time to lament, like he's taking a long time. It's like, I can understand in a logbook, like it's your diary, it's your whatever, but on the walls, like, get over yourself and tell us what you want to tell us.
Yep. And then, of course, we've got a very excited Vin who reveals what she thinks the deepness is.
Yeah. Just a different way of thinking about it, at least. It wasn't as wow as we thought it would be, I suppose, her revelation. It wasn't like, haha, now she knows. It's just like, oh, she just thought of a new way to think about it. And, well, a new way for herself. It's not a new way, as we found out, that most people have thought about it. It's been there long enough for people to have theories.
Right.
But I don't think she's completely wrong.
Interesting. Okay. I have to wonder if she is right or wrong on this.
Okay. Will
how to
we
word
wonder in
this.
the chapter, or are you going to wonder out loud now?
Well, I don't think there's anything specifically in the chapter that has me thinking that she's wrong. It's more like, it's not meta anything. It's just, I'm very skeptical that it's going to be the first thing. And they make a point of saying that she's usually right with her instincts. So I feel like you're playing that card a bit too much, Brandon Sanderson. She has to be wrong at some point about something, or
And
else.
she was. She
Yes.
has been wrong. Like the last time we had this the nose stuff thing, it did not work. She was farting nothing.
Right. What's hanging me up right now is the red sun.
Yeah. What turned the sun red?
Exactly. What turned the sun red? Why did it turn red?
It could be atmospheric.
Could be.
It could be, yeah.
I suppose I had always imagined the deepness as this, I guess you could say, cosmic monster that was, I guess, would have some sort of effect on the atmosphere. And I assumed that the mist might have been something of a byproduct of the cosmic monster. But if it's the mist itself,
I feel like it's the mist itself. Gosh, there's so many of these things that, like, not all of these ideas cancel each other out. They actually can weave into each other.
Yeah.
They don't necessarily make, like, the cosmic force thing. It's like, it's a cosmic force that is the mist that is there, and it's less dangerous because of something that rejected, and it's kind of kept at bay. And there's a lot. Look, that's what's great. It's a rich. There's rich mysteries in Brandon Sanderson books.
Indeed. And with that, I think we shall do this one as Kelsier.
Okay.
Hello and welcome to the No One Asked You podcast. For this particular series, I am joined by my wonderful co-host, Matt Darn Kitty.
Dorkus and I are both going into this story completely new, with almost no knowledge of the story or world.
Each segment, we intend to cover what happens in each new chapter and discuss our experience along the way.
Hold on to your butts, because this is Ascension Unleashed, a blind read-through, and today we'll be covering Chapter 30.
Chapter 30!
I can't be as smooth as Kelsier, okay? I just can't. Sorry.
I'm just out of practice for him myself, I suppose.
I got sad as well, just of like, oh, Kelsier.
I do miss him. He was so entertaining. But I must continue with the sparsest of detail. Space is limited. The other Worldbringers must have thought themselves humble when they came to me, admitting that they had been wrong about Alendi. Even then, I was beginning to doubt my original declaration. However, I was prideful. So, I don't like Quan.
Yeah?
Maybe I have a pro-Alendi bias in that I know that he felt conflicted about whether or not he was the hero of ages. But I really, really feel like this is Quan trying to make himself look good, as can be under the circumstances.
Yeah, it's very much about him, actually. He's just, oh, look how wrong I am, and I was so wrong, and what am I trying? I'm trying to say that, like, he's trying to admit it, that he was so wrong, instead of maybe interpreting it the way Alendi did. I guess that's what we're leaning into. We're leaning into Alendi, like, look, if it wasn't him, who was it going to be? Why is he? The thing is, why is Quan so sad about it? That's the thing, though.
Well, I guess he must have come to some sort of bit of knowledge about what would happen if the wrong person got to the Well of Ascension. My presumption is that he would know, or that he found out, that there would essentially be 1,000 years of tyranny, or
Mhm.
something bad to that effect.
So that means he wasn't wrong, because the wrong person did make it there, but that doesn't mean it was Elendi who was wrong. It was because Rashek took it, right?
Yeah. I mean, in theory, so what we know about the Well of Ascension is that you go to it and then you can have any wish in your heart. And maybe there's only one person so pure-hearted in the world that they would wish for mankind's salvation effectively. But I feel like there might be more than one person willing to do that. And we know that Elendi is not entirely dissimilar to Vin in the sense that they both sense the thumping. And we know that Elendi is unique in that he sensed this thumping pre-allomancy.
Mm-hmm.
So, which gets into this thing that I wanted to talk about a bit later, but we can do it now. I guess we're front-loading a lot this chapter. So Vin ultimately thinks that she's the hero of ages in this chapter. And I think it's been building to that.
Yeah.
Now, this contrasts a little bit to my issue with Quan and his perception of Elendi in that Vin could conceivably, we don't know if she's going to actively be trying to convince people she's the hero of ages, although I don't think that's out of the realm of possibility. But at the very least, her behavior and actions could lead people to believe that, in which case we get back to this whole repetition of history. And the way that Vin phrases it later on in this chapter, she wonders if another hero of ages will come. That's how she thinks of it. She doesn't consider the possibility that Elendi wasn't the hero of ages and that events had to play out to lead to Vin. She seems to think that he was, and now that things are repeating, another one will have to come and take his place.
Yeah, I'm okay with her conceptualizing it that way, because like I am of the opinion that it's all part of the same prophecy thing. It's not a repeat. Okay, so maybe I'm not in agreement with her, but it is not a repeat, but I'm still with her on this. The fact that we have to have these two hero of ages. Everything is happening the way it's supposed to, is what I'm saying. So it's okay. Yeah. And maybe that repetition is the way it's supposed to. You know what I'm saying? Or
sure.
Or there's some other prophecy. I don't know. That, you know what? Luckily, we don't have to finish the story. We can just read it, and it can tell us. So, but I love theorizing that. That's the whole point of us talking about it, anyway.
Yes, and of course, one of the big key differences between last time and this time is Sazed has Quan's journal.
Mm-hmm.
So,
okay. Speaking of which, Sazed, Quan's quandary, Quan's feelings. I don't want Sazed to go with that. Okay, Sazed thinks is worried about having an ego and all of this sort of stuff. So reading what Quan is doing could make him sensitive to those feelings. Where I'm like, you are not Quan. You are not like him. I need you to believe what you've seen here. Yeah. I don't need you to be cautious like Quan thinks he needs to be. I don't want him to be like Quan.
I agree.
Because there is a problem. I want him to acknowledge that there is something here. That's at least, you don't have to pick out a hero of ages, but you have to understand that the deepness is not done with.
Agreed.
Yeah.
I write this record now, Sazed read, pounding it into a metal slab because I am afraid. Afraid for myself, yes. I admit to being human. If Elendi does not return from the Well of Ascension, I am certain that my death will be one of his first objectives. He is not an evil man, but he is a ruthless one. That is, I think, a product of what he has been through. I am also afraid, however, that all I have known, that my story, will be forgotten. I am afraid for the world that is to come, afraid that Alendi will fail, afraid of a doom brought by the deepness. It all comes back to poor Alendi. I feel bad for him, and for all the things he has been forced to endure, for what he has been forced to become. But let me begin at the beginning. I met Alendi first in Clenium. He was a young lad then, and had not yet been warped by a decade spent leading armies. Alendi's height struck me the first time I saw him. Here was a man who was small of stature, but who seemed to tower over others, a man who demanded respect.
So, yeah, we have read these bits, obviously, in epigraph form. They're familiar. Now we've had this experience before where we get the reveal of which order they were in, and looking forward to our diagram.
Yes.
Of it.
We've also got Alendi as being small of stature. Obviously, Vin is small of stature.
Yes.
But I'm still feeling the Sazed is the hero of ages, and he's very tall, so there's that.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
Well, I mean, this is a prophecy anyway.
Yeah. Also, shot in the dark prediction here, I bet the Hero of Ages book, the third book in this series, will have a Reshek journal.
A Reshek journal. Yeah, why not?
I'm calling it now.
Okay. I'm putting that on the prediction log.
Please do.
Hold on. Theory log? No, prediction log.
And it'll have a similar reveal or passage in the book like this one, which is also like the one from the first one.
Book 3. Shut up in the comments. Book 3, Reshek journal. Also, sorry, just putting into the theory log, just to let you know, putting into the theory log, deepness equals deep mist.
Cool.
Okay. Right. As I read that, I was like, because when you read Alendi's height, you're like, oh, that means he was tall. Just like, no, his lack thereof, I suppose, is what was interesting.
It was Alendi's simple ingenuousness that first led me to befriend him. I employed him as an assistant during his first months in the Grand City. It wasn't until years later that I became convinced that Alendi was the hero of ages. Hero of ages, the one called Rabzin in Clenium, the Anomnesor, Savior.
I'm just trying to remember your comments when we got to that point as an epigraph. I think we were just we did just discuss whether why Quan would have employed him as an assistant. There was something special about him or anything like that. It's just because he was a good guy, and there's nothing wrong with that. I don't blame Quan for picking Alendi. He's busy lamenting everything that's happened, including just, oh, well, I chose him as my assistant, whatever.
Yeah.
But that was fated, I suppose. Relax.
By the way, I'm really hoping that he wrote out the prophecy.
Yeah, come on.
We still don't get that, and if we don't, I'll be really annoyed, even if it's in bits and parts. Like, yes. Why isn't he writing, okay, so here's what the prophecy said. Here's why I thought Alendi fit. Here's why he doesn't fit.
Yes, put all that in. Don't just sit there and go, I was so mistaken. Tell us how you were mistaken. Tell us exactly how you were mistaken.
In very specific detail, please.
But he's busy.
Yep.
He's busy over here being like, oh, he was so nice. And, he was short, but, he could still command a room. It's like, oh, and I don't have space to write all this, but.
But I'm going to write about how I don't have space. I don't like Quan.
Yeah.
Then I finally had the realization, finally connected all of the signs of the anticipation to Alendi. I was so excited. Yet when I announced my discovery to the other world bringers, I was met with scorn. Oh, how I wish that I had listened to them.
I was about to say, okay, so how I wish that I'd listened to them. All of this is going into Sazed's head, and I do not want it to. Okay, I don't want him going, oh, I should have listened to the synod, I should have listened to the keepers and all of that. I don't want him thinking that way, because he has his own things to figure out. He can't limit himself because of this. But I feel like this is something that will make him want to be more cautious because of Quan.
Which is, and on one hand, that's good, because I don't think Vin's the hero of ages, so he should be cautious. At the same time, I don't want him to make the same mistakes as past generations. So
yeah, I don't want him to do that, absolutely, but I also don't want him to leave the project unsolved, if you know what I'm saying. To stop studying this, he can't leave it alone. That's what I want. I don't want him to now go and run and declare Vin the hero of ages. I'm glad that he is cautious that way, absolutely. But at the same time, I don't want him to take this advice as, oh, I must stop looking into this. It's like, no. It means you must just look into it very cautiously.
Yes. And yet, any who know me will realize that there was no chance I would give up so easily. Once I find something to investigate, I become dogged in my pursuit. I had determined that Alendi was the hero of ages, and I intended to prove it. I should have bowed before the will of the others. I shouldn't have insisted on traveling with Alendi to witness his journeys. It was inevitable that Alendi himself would find out what I believed him to be. Yes, he was the one who fueled the rumors after that. I could never have done what he did, convincing and persuading the world that he was indeed the hero. I don't know if he believed it, but he made others think that he must be the one. Did he?
Well, he made others, it seems like he made others by his actions. That doesn't mean that he was like, I don't know. I don't get the sense that he was like, hello, everybody, I am the hero of ages. It was like, also, if you do think you are the chosen one and you've got, the ability to do things and to bring the world together and whatever, like he did at the end, I guess we just hang on that he's like, listen, even if it's not me, somebody needs to do something.
Yeah.
Even if it's not, I'm what the world has right now.
Lisan al-Gaib is so humble. Must be Lisan al-Gaib.
Exactly.
If only the terrorist religion and belief in the anticipation hadn't spread beyond our people. If only the deepness hadn't come when it did, providing a threat that drove men to desperation both in action and belief. If only I had passed over Alendi when looking for an assistant all those years ago. Sazed sat back from his work of transcribing the rubbing. There was still a great deal to do. It was amazing how much writing this Quan had managed to cram onto the relatively small sheet of steel. Sazed looked over his work. He'd spent his entire trip north anticipating the time when he could finally begin work on the rubbing. Part of him had been worried. Would the dead man's words seem as important sitting in a well-lit room as they had when in the dungeons of the conventicle of Saren? So, at this point, I was wondering, has he read the whole thing?
Yeah, I don't know.
It's been a week since he returned, at least. And then some, I think, actually.
Yeah, I would have read it before all the way through anyway.
Yeah.
Not just transcribing, unless the process is strenuous. I don't know. What do you think that if there was any revelation, it would be revealed now?
That's the thing. I think Sanderson doesn't want us to know the depths of what's in here yet, but I think Sazed does. And obviously, in just a few paragraphs, he's going to scan ahead to the information that Sanderson does want us to know. But just tell us everything already. I want to know.
But if Sazed does know these things, wouldn't they be big enough for us to discuss them now? I suppose there would have to be in-world reasons for him to not notice them or not think them as big a deal when he first read them. And then he reveals, oh, this is actually in the writing, and this is what Quan said. And we're like, oh my God, how could you not tell us? It's like, oh, I didn't think it was. Oh, he loves doing the slow feeding of the writings. Oh, it's annoying.
Yeah. Yep.
And well done.
Yeah. He scanned to another part of the document, reading a few choice paragraphs, ones of particular importance to him. As the one who found Alendi, however, I became someone important, foremost amongst the Worldbringers. There was a place for me in the lore of the anticipation. I sought myself the announcer, the prophet foretold to discover the hero of ages. Renouncing Alendi's end would have been to renounce my new position, my acceptance by the others. And so I did not. But I do so now. Let it be known that I, Kwan, Worldbringer of Terrace, am a fraud.
Hold up.
So,
Yeah,
okay.
so
Hold up.
the announcer, the prophet foretold to discover the hero of ages. So there is a prophet that has been prophesied.
Mm-hmm. John the Baptizer?
Yeah. Okay. So what I need to know what that prophecy says about this announcer, because what if Sazed is the announcer? What announces the announcer? What lets us know that he is the announcer? Because Sazed might fit it.
I definitely think Sazed will think that he's the announcer, and I definitely think that he will think that Vin is the hero of ages. Again, it's all playing out in front of us.
But I feel like he'll consider it and go, no, it can't be. Because looking also at this character, Quan, he is, as much as we put them together, like, okay, Quan and Sazed, they're both scholars, well, I put them together. I think you distinguished between them a while ago. That's it. The scholarly stuff is what keeps them, the scholarly stuff is what makes them similar, but that's about it. This guy has way more ego than Sazed ever could have. Like, I was important. I don't think Sazed gives a damn about being important. He just cares about what's good for his people and things like that.
I agree.
But I feel like he's worried about his own ego getting involved, which is, it's just a non-issue. So again, this is more of, oh, I'm a fraud or whatever. So this, I feel, sows more doubt in Sazed's head.
I agree, and it will hopefully allow him to be extra cautious in his analyses.
Mm-hmm.
I want to talk here a little bit about themes of being a social pariah or an outcast or what have you. We've got the Vin-Dogasor relationship and Dogasor feeling very, very much an outsider. And we've got Vin putting in all of this effort and work to make him feel like he's a part of the group. She has him sit in on the meetings now, and she asks his opinion and so on and so forth. We've got Quan here basically saying, I feel like I'm an outsider and I really want to be a part of the group. I want to be respected as part of the group. I want them to acknowledge me. And then, of course, we've got Sazed with his whole, he feels like he's an outsider. He feels very much like he's not a part of the group, and he's struggling with his role in all of that. And we, to a point, have Jostas feeling very much like an outsider. No one respects him as a leader, to the point where he's gone down the dark path of the Kolos. And we've got Elend more or less being kicked out of his role as king. I don't know how well that fits into all of this, but we've also got Zane feeling like an outsider and wanting, I don't want to say he wants his dad's approval, but like he wants respect. He thinks he can get it by fear and so on. So I'm seeing a lot of this idea inspired by this paragraph here. What do you think?
Yeah, the most out of outcasts is Zane. He sometimes he sees it as powerful, sometimes he sees it as lamentable, sometimes he blames people for it, sometimes he doesn't. It's all over the place. It's in different characters, this theme. I see it.
Cool. I'm not crazy. Yay. I did a smart.
Smart.
Sazed closed his eyes. Worldbringer. The term was known to him. The Order of the Keepers had been founded upon memories and hopes from Terrace legends. The Worldbringers had been teachers, pharochemists who had traveled the lands bearing knowledge. They had been a prime inspiration for the secret Order of Keepers. This is good to know, because I had always thought that the Terrace were strange tribal people up to the north who didn't really go out much. I thought Quan was unique in going out and studying.
Okay, no, but this was like, it was part of their culture all the time. Yeah, Ferrochemy was around.
Yeah. But hey, we now know what the Worldbringers are, so that's neat. Mm-hmm. And now he had a document by a Worldbringer's own hand. Tyndwell is going to be very annoyed with me, Sazed thought, opening his eyes. He'd read the entire rubbing, but he would need to spend time studying it, memorizing it, cross-referencing it with other documents. This one bit of writing, perhaps 20 pages total, could easily keep him busy for months, even years.
Okay, so there is confirmation he has read the whole thing.
Yes.
Okay,
same.
There is. Okay, so yeah, then I really absolutely need there to be in-world reasons for this not to be revelatory or whatever.
Yeah. Why is he not thinking, oh my God, I know what the prophecy is now. Oh boy.
Yeah, like none of that. Well, what the hell? Or is he maybe just... That makes me a bit worried for what is in this. Is there anything really...
I mean, obviously we're not reading his first time reading through it. We're a week at least in of him actually going through it. So some of the initial awe might have dampened. All well, fair and good. But
yeah. No, and it makes sense because he would be thinking about all kinds of things, because he's thinking about how much studying he can do about this whole thing, and he's probably thinking about it in a historic kind of way, as opposed to, no, you need to find the answers now.
Yeah.
Because there is a problem now. So it makes sense. But yeah, again with the slow feeding of knowledge. God damn it.
His window shutters rattled. Sazed looked up. He was in his quarters at the palace, a tasteful collection of well-decorated rooms that were far too lavish for one who had spent his life as a servant. He rose, walked over to the window, undid the latch, and pulled open the shutters. He smiled as he found Vin crouching on the ledge outside.
Hi,
Vin said. She wore her mist cloak over a gray shirt and black trousers. Despite the onset of morning, she obviously hadn't yet gone to bed after her nightly prowl.
You should leave your window unlatched. I can't get in if it's locked. Ellen got mad at me for breaking too many latches.
I shall try to remember that, Lady Wynne, Sazed said, and gesturing for her to enter. That was cute. Of course she breaks locks. And of course Ellen would get upset.
Yeah, it's like, oh my gosh, I've got to replace these too much, but well then, don't latch them.
Vin hopped spryly through the window, mist cloak rustling.
Try to remember? You never forget anything. Not even the things you don't have stuck in a metal mind.
She's grown so much bolder, he thought as she walked over to his writing desk, peering over his work. Even in the months I have been away.
What's this?
Vin asked, still looking at the desk. I found it at the conventicle of Saran, Lady Wynne, Sazed said, walking forward. It felt so good to be wearing clean robes again, to have a quiet and comfortable place in which to study. Was he a bad man for preferring this to travel? No, you're not. You're allowed to like things and have preferences.
Oh, gosh, Sazed, you're so hard on yourself.
1 month, he thought. I will give myself 1 month of study. Then I will turn the project over to someone else. 1 month? And to who?
But listen, this is Sazed we're talking about. A month is nothing. A month of study, please. He wants to give it a year, even years, he says. So it's like, and it's like, come on, just be real here. Why do you have to start the investigation and then hand it over? There's no reason for you unless you want to be, okay?
Also, there are armies outside your door.
Yeah, you don't have a month. That's true.
And are you really going to trust it to Tyndwell?
Yeah, like she's just going to be like, whatever. No. Be like Kwan, okay? As much as he's like, oh, my dogged pursuit of something to research, oh, that's lamentable now. No, hold on to it. Be a nerd, Sazed. Nerd out so hard, please.
Please.
Mm-hmm.
No one will care as much as you. Or at least if you do pass it along, keep a copy for yourself to reference for midnight reading.
Yes, because you're going to need it, I feel.
Yeah.
What is it?
Vin asked, holding up the rubbing. If you please, Lady Wynn, that is quite fragile. The rubbing could be smudged. Vin nodded, putting it down and scanning his transcription. There had been a time when she would have avoided anything that smelled of stuffy writing, but now she looked intrigued.
This mentions the deepness.
Amongst other things, Saz had said, joining her at the desk. He sat down and Vin walked over to one of the room's low-backed plush chairs. She didn't sit on it as an ordinary person would. Instead, she hopped up and sat down on the chair's back, her feet resting on the seat cushion.
What?
She asked, apparently noticing Sazed's smile. Merely amused at the proclivity of Mistborn, Lady Wynn. Your kind has trouble simply sitting. It seems you always want to perch instead. That comes of having such an incredible sense of balance, I think. Vin frowned, but didn't continue the topic.
Sazed, what was the deepness?
I'm so glad that she is so direct, at least.
Yeah, she's not gonna... It's like, okay, yeah, cool, I'm here for a reason. What was the deepness? Let's talk about it. She does... Does she continue with this directness?
Not quite so much as I recall. There's some things she's still trying to... I don't think she wants to be the hero of ages, but she thinks she is. So I understand that, but...
Listen, I don't feel like she's overreacting. I think there's something here.
Yeah.
And she's not doing it out of ego, like, oh, I'm the chosen one or whatever. There are things that put me in the same place and I'm scared and want to figure this out. Because if it is me, then I've got to do something. If it isn't me, we've got to find the person who is. So all of this is important. Both of them, come on, team up and nerd out and figure it out.
He laced his fingers before himself, regarding the young woman as he mused. The deepness, Lady Wynn? That is a subject of much debate, I think. It was supposedly something great and powerful, though some scholars have dismissed the entire legend as a fabrication concocted by the Lord Ruler. There is some reason to believe this theory, I think, for the only real records of those times are the ones sanctioned by the Steel Ministry. So this is the first part of Sazed doing something that I really like, which is, he's like, okay, so here's the theory, here's why you can believe the theory, and here's maybe why you wouldn't. It's really interesting, actually. What wonderful timing. My computer is yet again in the hospital, and I'm reading a really, really wonderful book about Rome, The Beginning of Rome by T.J. Cornell. And in it, he very much does this, to the point where I was almost reading the book in Sazed's accent because I happened to be reading this chapter at the same time, congruently, where TJ Cornell will basically say, so here are these historians, and they made this argument that Rome was an actual Etruscan city rather than a Latin city. And here are some compelling reasons why to believe it, but then we can also dismiss these reasons because of this and that. So it's really fascinating on my end to observe the parallels in the way Sazed speaks and the way that T.J. Cornell writes.
Proper historian scholar thing is coming through from Sazed. It makes sense that's how he should be thinking. He should be thinking of, okay, well, there's this evidence and there's that evidence. He's not going to be definitive on, he'll have his own opinion, but he'll know all of the other theories brought on by other people.
Yeah. And it's to Mr. Sanderson's credit that he is so accurate in the way he writes a historian mindset type thing.
Yeah, exactly. I love that you like think basically you're reading in Sazed's accent.
Yeah.
Sazed would write this kind of thing.
Yeah. much easier to think in the weird accent I've selected than actually speak it.
I read Tyndall in the same way. But the logbook mentions the deepness, and so does that thing you're translating now.
Indeed, Lady Wynne. But even among those who assume the deepness was real, there is a great deal of debate. Some hold to their Lord Ruler's official stories that the deepness was a horrible supernatural beast, a dark god, if you will. Others disagree with this extreme interpretation. They think the deepness was more mundane, an army of some sort, perhaps invaders from another land. The foremost dominance during pre-ascension times was apparently populated with several tribes who were considered primitive and warlike. And that is the first element of there's no chance in hell the deepness was an army, and anyone who suggests that is ridiculous.
Yeah.
But we do get a little bit into the linguistics and how language could have changed, and it's like, okay, maybe, but no, that there's no way.
Yeah, it's because we have other evidence that the thumping and all of that sort of the supernatural evidence. So yeah, cool. I understand how you could have that theory, but disproven already for us. Just a note, in my edition, it says pre-ascension times was apparently populated with several breeds of men who were quite primitive and warlike. So that's interesting. When I read breed, breed is like biology, like biologically different. Whereas when you say tribes, it's just that, culturally different.
Yeah, very interesting. Breed obviously comes into topic later in this chapter, but not necessarily in this context, but maybe there's some subtle work going on there by intention. But I like tribe.
I prefer tribe.
Yeah. And also, language doesn't work like that. The deepness is not going to be an army. Like, you could argue it's going to be like the leader of an army, like a title type thing.
Well, we have the Kolos.
Yeah, that's true. But deepness doesn't sound like, well, a race of man or something in the same way that the Kolos does, or the orcs do, or the elves.
Like ness is an essence. Ness, that word ness, like that part of it is essence. It's like a happiness, that whole thing. That's an essence.
Yeah.
Whereas, a race would be a different kind of thing linguistically.
Yeah.
I'm with you.
Vin was smiling. He looked at her questioningly and she shrugged.
I asked Ellen the same question, and I got barely a sentence-long response.
His Majesty favors different areas of scholarship. Pre-ascension history may be too stuffy a topic even for him. Besides, anyone who asks a keeper about the past should be prepared for an extended conversation, I think.
I'm not complaining. Continue.
There isn't much more to say. Or rather, there's a great deal more to say, but I doubt much of it has relevance. Was the deepness an army? Was it perhaps the first attack from Kolos, as some theorize? No, of course not. Terrible theory. That would explain much. Most stories agree that the Lord Ruler gained some power to defeat the deepness at the Well of Ascension. Perhaps he gained the support of the Kolos and then used them as his armies.
Sazed, I don't think the deepness was the Kolos.
Oh?
I think it was the mist.
That theory has been proposed, Sazed said with a nod.
It has?
Vin asked, sounding a bit disappointed. See, I imagine her saying, I think it was the mist, with just such great pride. Like, she does a reveal. Like, if I was filming it, I would have her turn to face him and be like, I think it was the mist. That theory has been proposed, Sazed said with a nod.
It has?
Vin asked, sounding a bit disappointed. Ah, poor Vin.
Yeah, Vin's just not used to these sort of things. She's like, it's the answer, okay? But like Sazed is showing her, is like, yes, people theorize these things, and you can't just say it and then therefore it is. And also, having said it, that there's a lot more to do. Now what? If that's what you do, what you think it is, you have to convince people and da-da-da.
Yeah, and obviously Sazed is such a historian, but I love that this topic has been studied and well thought out.
Yeah, Look, as much as it could be, considering I don't know. I think the Lord Ruler wouldn't want them to. He just wants people to accept what he says it is, and that's it. But you can't stop scholarly pursuit.
Why didn't anyone ever ask him?
He would only give the official PR approved statement of what the deepness was.
Which begs the question, do the Inquisitors know what it is? Because clearly they had Quan's writings.
Yes. They must know, and the obligators, somebody needs to know. It wouldn't just be just Roshek knowing the truth about the deepness and things like that. I don't know. Would it?
I don't know.
Either way, I'm glad we know that there were philosophers that despite the Lord Ruler's control, there were people thinking about different ways to run the state, and basically they were heretics. So it makes sense that we would have historical heretics as well.
Yeah. Of course, Lady Wynn. During the 1,000-year reign of the Final Empire, there are a few possibilities that haven't been discussed, I think. The Mist theory has been advanced before, but there are several large problems with it.
Such as?
Well, for one thing, the Lord Ruler is said to have defeated the Deepness, but the Mist is obviously still here. Okay, first off, Sawzed, you know damn well that Reshek was not the Lord Ruler. Therefore, terrible argument.
Yes, exactly. So the Lord Ruler, you know that the Lord Ruler is not the hero of ages. You know that the Lord Ruler is not Elendi. You know that. We know that. You're smart enough to know that. So
others don't know that, but you do.
Yes, exactly. So that is not a good enough problem to be had. Yes, it's a problem for other people, but we are in the know. You were there. You were literally there. And you heard him say his thing as well. You heard him say, you don't know what I do for you. So, yeah, okay, boom, that one's knocked out of the water, done. But also, Vin hearing this, I hope, Vin also, as much as she's disappointed and like, oh no, this theory it's been disproved, smarter people have said it's wrong. I feel like she can't let go of this. She won't let go.
Yeah. Well, for one thing, the Lord Ruler is said to have defeated the Deepness, but the Mist is obviously still here. Also, if the Deepness was simply mist, why call it by such an obscure name? Of course, others point out that much of what we know or have heard of the Deepness comes from oral lore, and something very common can take on mystical properties when transferred verbally through generations. So that right there, it did not hit me the first read through, but when I was taking notes later on, and I read that, and I was like, oral lore changes linguistics. Obviously, obviously it wasn't an army. Deepness, deep mist.
It really could be like, it's set up perfectly. That line is highlighted. I'm sorry, it works.
The deepness, therefore, could mean not solely the mist, but the event of its coming or alteration. The larger problem with the mist theory is one of malignance. If we trust the accounts, and we have little else to go on, the deepness was terrible and destructive. The mist seems to display none of this danger. Okay, so first off, pre-death of the Lord Ruler, sure but not sure, because we know that the Ska were dreadfully afraid of the mist. We know that there were mist wraiths in the mist. So I don't think it's sufficient to say that the mists were ever harmless.
Yeah, they're not just normal weather either. They don't work that way.
Even before day mist, in the state that the Lord Ruler had the world.
Yes.
No.
Mm-hmm. Also, it's not the first account that, like, there are accounts of the way the world was before the mists. So there is that, as well as evidence that the mist is malignant, because it's a completely different state. The world changed quite drastically.
Yep. And not that Sawzed would know this, but I do remember Elend saying that the Lord Ruler gets very perturbed when atium numbers and crops don't fill their quotas.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because he's had to keep something at bay. We've already accepted that, it's not defeated, whatever it is.
Yeah. And my working theory is still that he used Duralumin empowered Atium to stop it from doing what it does.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, the mist seems to display none of this danger.
But it kills people now.
Yes, Lady Wynn, it apparently does.
And what if it did so before, but the Lord Ruler stopped it somehow? You yourself said that you think we did something that changed the mist when we killed the Lord Ruler.
Sazed nodded. The problems I have been investigating are quite terrible, to be certain. However, I do not see that they could be a threat on the same level as the deepness. Certain people have been killed by the mists, but many are elderly or otherwise lacking in constitution. It leaves many people alone. He tapped his thumbs together. But I would be remiss if I didn't admit some merit to the suggestion, Lady Wynn. Perhaps even a few deaths would be enough to cause a panic. The danger could have been exaggerated by retelling, and perhaps the killings were more widespread before. I haven't been able to collect enough information to be certain of anything yet.
I think it is a case of it being more widespread before.
Yeah.
Because it's now coming back. It's taking a while to recover from whatever it was that Rashek was doing.
And Vin ultimately is going to make some very, very compelling arguments.
Mm-hmm.
At the moment, I'm still hesitant to think that the mist itself is the deepness, but an effect or an auxiliary
part of it, yeah.
Part of it, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But she does make some very compelling arguments.
Yeah, and just thinking, I understand you can actually see Sazed's caution here because he's not going immediately to panic himself. He's like, oh, well, it's not on the level of the deepness. I think there's caution there, of course, because you don't want to decide it's the end of the world. But at the same time, you do kind of want that instinctual, there's something here, you need to really figure it out. If it is the stakes are high enough that you need to figure it out. It could be the end of the world. You can't, I understand the fear of deciding that because deciding this is actually an existential. This is an actual huge threat to everybody's existence. That is quite a big thing to accept. So I can understand kind of dancing around it and finding ways to just be like, no, it's not that bad. Like, no.
So it's bad.
It's bad.
Especially since it comes on the heel of killing the Lord Ruler. It's bad. Yeah,
so follow Vin's instincts with this, because that's what I'm like, you guys can't look away from this. I understand the hesitation, but I don't think they will. But
no. Vin didn't respond. Oh dear. I've bored her. I really do need to be more careful of watching my vocabulary and my language. One would think that after all my travels among the Ska, I would have learned.
Sazed.
So I'm going to interrupt you there super quickly to say, oh, Sazed, you are so not boring right now.
No, you are not boring. And he's just, and he's misreading, just how he misreads. Yeah. That's again, just how hard on himself he is. Just like, oh, damn, I'm bored. Yeah. No, don't worry.
Anyway, I would have learned.
Sazed, what if we're looking at it wrong? What if these random deaths in the mist aren't the problem at all?
What do you mean, Lady Wynn? She sat quietly for a moment, one foot tapping back idly against the chair's back cushion. She finally looked up, meeting his eyes.
What would happen if the mists came during the day permanently?
Sazed mused on that for a moment.
There would be no light. Plants would die. People would starve. There would be death. Chaos.
I suppose. Perhaps that theory has merit.
It's not a theory,
Vin said, hopping down from her chair.
It's what happened.
You're so certain already? Sazed asked with amusement. Vin nodded curtly, joining him at the desk.
I'm right,
she said with her characteristic bluntness.
I know it.
She pulled something out of a trouser pocket, then drew over a stool to sit beside him. She unfolded the wrinkled sheet and flattened it on the desk.
You knew what this was now when she did that, right?
Oh, yeah, obviously. And I'm glad, and as it so happens, Sazed was just thinking about cross-referencing with other documents, so it's very good that she reminds Sazed that this exists.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah, don't get so lost in this without realizing that you've got to take it in context.
Yes. And the thought of the entire world being covered in mist permanently is a legitimately scary thought.
Yeah, I think that is very deepness.
Yeah. Dare I say, it would be very deep mist.
These are quotes from the logbook. Here the Lord Ruler talks about how armies were useless against the deepness. At first I thought this meant that the armies hadn't been able to defeat it. But look at the wording. He says, the swords of my armies are useless. What's more useless than trying to swing a sword at mist?
Strong argument right there.
Yep, there you go.
She pointed at another paragraph.
It left destruction in its wake, right? Countless thousands died because of it. But he never says that the deepness actually attacked them. He says that they died because of it. Maybe we've just been looking at this the wrong way all along. Those people weren't crushed or eaten. They starved to death because their land was slowly being swallowed by the mists. I'm with you, Vin.
Yeah. Very compelling.
Mm-hmm.
Sazed studied her paper. She seemed so certain. Did she know nothing of proper research techniques? Of questioning, of studying, of postulating and devising answers? Of course she doesn't, Sazed chastised himself. She grew up on the streets. She doesn't use research techniques. She just uses instinct, and she's usually right. It's very likable. I like you, Sazed, so much.
Yeah. He's
endearing.
Yeah, he's self-aware. But okay, that is your job now, Sazed. Take her instincts and go and look. She's got a hypothesis. She's giving you a hypothesis. Go. Look.
Mm-hmm.
You can do the research. You can do the techniques or whatever. Look into it.
Yep. And again, she's making strong arguments.
Mm-hmm.
He smoothed the paper again, reading its passages. Lady Wynne, did you write this yourself? She flushed.
Why is everybody so surprised about that?
It doesn't seem in your nature, Lady Wynne.
You people have corrupted me. Look, there isn't a single comment on this sheet that contradicts the idea that the deepness was missed.
Not contradicting a point and proving it are different things, Lady Wynne. I did like that corrupted line. I think that's the second time we've gotten that line from Vin, and it's just as endearing.
And it just makes me think, I don't know, it made me think of Calcia. I think he used a similar kind of joke.
Yeah. She waved indifferently.
I'm right, Sazed. I know I am.
What about this point, then? Sazed asked, pointing to a line. The hero implies that he can sense a sentience to the deepness. The mist isn't alive.
Well, it does swirl around someone using elemancy.
That isn't the same thing, I think. He says that the deepness was mad, destructively insane, evil. Vin hesitated.
There is something, Sazed.
She admitted. He frowned. She pointed at another section of notes.
Do you recognize these paragraphs?
Please read it aloud, Kite.
Okay, I'm reading. Okay. It isn't a shadow. This dark thing that follows me, the thing only I can see. It isn't really a shadow. It is blackish and translucent, but it doesn't have a shadow-like solid outline. It's insubstantial, wispy and formless, like it's made out of a dark fog. Or mist, perhaps.
Yes, Lady Wynne. The hero saw a creature following him. It attacked one of his companions, I think. Vin looked in his eyes.
I've seen it, Sazed.
He felt a chill. And again, a little bit of that cinematic way of writing. I could just totally see this playing out in movie form.
Yeah, the music heightening.
Yep. Yep. And like just a close-up shot of Sazed's face right there.
Mm-hmm. And then go to Vin. It's out there. Every night in the mists, watching me. I can feel it with elemancy. And if I get close enough, I can see it. As if formed from the mist itself. Insubstantial, yet somehow still there.
And we cut that line for the trailer.
Yes!
Sazed sat quietly for a moment, not certain what to think.
You think me mad?
No, Lady Wynne. I don't think any of us are in a position to call such things madness, not considering what is happening. Just, are you certain? She nodded firmly. But, even if this is true, it does not answer my question. The logbook author saw that same creature, and he didn't refer to it as a deepness. Thus it was not the deepness. The deepness was something else, something dangerous, something he could feel as evil.
Hold up.
Okay.
I'm worried here because he says the logbook author, right?
Okay.
I guess I'm not. I don't think he's put together who's Alendi. Alendi. He doesn't refer to the logbook author as Alendi.
Oh.
He does. He just calls him the logbook author. So he hasn't put this together.
No.
How did he put it together?
It could be that he's not prepared to tell Vin what's in the paper yet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I don't necessarily think this is Sazed lying or necessarily withholding things. It's just he's being, I think, very protective of his Quan revelations.
Yeah, he wants to be sure. He wants to think about them. He's not going to think about them through Vin. Actually, that sucks. Vin does her thinking by talking to people about her theories. He's more introspective, and then we'll only talk about it later. Yeah, I do feel like he would have put it together. You're right. It seems more like he's just not putting it together for her.
Yeah. The deepness was something else, something dangerous, something he could feel as evil.
That's the secret then. We have to figure out why he spoke of the mists that way. Then we'll know.
Know what, Lady Wynn? Vin looked away. She didn't answer, instead turning to a different topic.
Sazed, the hero never did what he was supposed to. Rashek killed him. And when Rashek took the power at the well, he didn't give it up like he was supposed to. He kept it for himself.
Thank you, Vin, for articulating it in exactly that way. I mean, that right there should be enough to say that the deepness is back. I mean, I suppose I'm operating from a position of only the hero of ages can stop or will stop the deepness. Therefore, the deepness is not stopped. But regardless, I see no reason whatsoever not to believe that the deepness is back.
Yes, the deepness was not defeated. So it's bringing back that point where he's like, oh, well, the mists are still here. Exactly.
And getting worse.
Yeah, that fits in. So put this all together.
True.
And the mists have started killing people. They've started coming during the day. It's like things are repeating again. So maybe that means the hero of ages will have to come again.
Interesting. Mine says events, not things, but she glanced back at him, looking a bit embarrassed. Ah, Sazed thought, sensing her implication. She saw things in the mist. The previous hero had seen the same things. And I'm so glad that it's communicated. She doesn't say it, but she communicated it and he picked up on it. I am not certain that is a valid statement, Lady Wynn, she snorted.
Why can't you just come out and say you're wrong like regular people?
I apologize, Lady Wynn. I have had much training as a servant, and we are taught to be non-confrontational. Nevertheless, I do not think that you are wrong. I also think that perhaps you haven't fully considered your position. Vin shrugged. What makes you think that the hero of ages will return?
I don't know. Things that happen. Things I feel. The mists are coming again, and someone needs to stop them.
Sazed ran his fingers across his translated section of the rubbing, looking over its words.
You don't believe me.
It isn't that, Lady Wynn. It's simply that I am not prone to rushing to decisions.
But you've thought about the hero of ages, haven't you? He was part of your religion, the lost religion of Terrace. The thing you keepers were founded to try and discover.
That is true. However, we do not know much about the prophecies that our ancestors used to find their hero. Besides, the reading I've been doing lately suggests that there was something wrong with their interpretations. If the greatest theologians of pre-Ascension Terrace were unable to properly identify their hero, how are we supposed to do so? Okay, so first off, Sazed, that's not an entirely accurate read. It's not that your ancestors were wrong in their interpretations. It's that they were wrong about the person.
Yeah.
I guess that's a distinction without a difference, or a difference without a distinction, but it's lots of people are left-handed, so
you can still reassess just because they were wrong, that doesn't mean now, like, the consequences of being wrong are worse if you don't try. If you're not trying to figure it out, if you just leave it, which seems to be the thing with prophecy. Like, yes, prophecy has to be prophesied and professed in order for things to happen the way they should.
Yeah.
It all fulfills itself.
And look, Vin seems to be taking it on assumption that the hero of ages will come again. And we talked earlier about whether or not it would be the hero of ages or another hero of ages, which I do think is an important distinction. And it's very good that Sazed now has this bit of information suggesting that Alendi wasn't the hero of ages, because if Alendi was and failed, I don't see that there's a reason to believe that another one will come and take his place. True. Meaning the world is doomed, and that way leads nihilism. So it could well be that Sazed will have to convince people, no, Alendi wasn't. See, Quan said he wasn't, therefore Vin has to be, or must be.
Or someone else, Vin, listen, at this point, Vin is our best bet, because she can feel it. She's at least part of it, come on.
She's certainly involved somehow. What if it's Marsh? No, look, what if Marsh is the, what's the word that Sazed said earlier, or Quan said, the announcer. What if Marsh is the announcer and Sazed's the hero of ages?
Why not?
Vin sat quietly.
I shouldn't have brought it up.
No, Lady Wynn, please don't think that. I apologize. Your series have great merit. I simply have a scholar's mind, and must question and consider information when I am given it. I am far too fond of arguing, I think. Vin looked up, smiling slightly.
Another reason you never made a good terror steward?
Undoubtedly. My attitude also tends to cause conflicts with the others of my order.
Like Tyndall? She didn't sound happy when she heard that you told us about Ferrokimi.
Sazed nodded. For a group dedicated to knowledge, the keepers can be rather stingy with information about their powers. When the Lord Ruler still lived, when keepers were hunted, the caution was warranted, I think. But now that we are free, my brethren and sisters seem to have found the habit of secrecy a difficult one to break. Vin nodded.
That's quite funny, because, like, that's what Vin found secrecy quite a difficult habit to break.
Yeah, and I can't really blame them. At least not until the world stabilizes a bit.
Exactly, yeah. Tyndall doesn't seem to like you very much. She says that she came because of your suggestion, but every time someone mentions you, she seems to get cold.
Sazed sighed. Did Tyndall not like him? He thought perhaps that her inability to do so was a large part of the problem. No, she likes you. She clearly likes you.
Her inability to do so, her inability to not like him.
Or to like him.
He thought perhaps that her inability to do so was a large part of the problem.
Oh. That's
to dislike him. That makes sense. Her inability to dislike him, like she actually does like him, but she's not supposed to. She's supposed to be mean to him. That's what I wonder about. Okay, I don't know. It seems ambiguous to me.
Yeah.
Do you see how I see it? You don't have to agree, but you can.
No, I'm just having a dumb moment, and I like your way better, so let's go with that one.
Okay.
Is what I'm thinking. She is simply disappointed in me, Lady Wynn. I'm not sure how much you know of my history, but I had been working against the Lord Ruler for some 10 years before Kelsier recruited me. The other keepers thought I endangered my copper mines and the wary order itself. They believed that the keepers should remain quiet, waiting for the day when the Lord Ruler fell, but not seeking to make it happen. So first off, I want The Lost Years of Sazed, a book about what he did in those 10 years to try and overthrow the Lord Ruler.
Yes, why not?
But also, yeah.
Is it in the Arcanum Unbounded? Come on.
Let us know. I mean, don't let us know, but let us know if we can look forward to that story coming out in some way.
Seems a bit cowardly to me.
But it was a very prudent course. You see, Lady Wynn, had I been captured, there are many things I could have revealed. The names of other keepers, the locations of our safe houses, the means by which we managed to hide ourselves in Terra's culture. My brethren and sisters worked for many decades to make the Lord Ruler think that Feruchemy had finally been exterminated. By revealing myself, I could have undone all of that.
That would only have been bad had we failed. We didn't.
We could have.
We didn't.
Sazed smiled. Sometimes in a world of debate, questions, and self-doubt, Vin's simple bluntness was refreshing. Regardless, Tyndville is a member of the Synod, a group of keeper elders who guide our sect. I have been in rebellion against the Synod a number of times during my past, and by returning to Lucidel, I am defying them once again. She has good reason to be displeased with me.
Well, I think you're doing the right thing. We need you.
Thank you, Lady Wynn. Good, Vin. Reinforce that. He is being too concerned, too subservient, indeed.
Like, be more rebellious again. Like, listen, you are part of why the Lord Ruler is gone. Okay, yes, okay, we didn't know that that's a bad thing, but...
You can represent yourself, Sazed, and the Lord Ruler's done. I understand, like, the pull of family and loyalty to one's culture, etc., but the Lord Ruler's gone. You should be free now.
Exactly.
Thank you, Lady Wynn.
I don't think you have to listen to Tyndall. She's the type who acts like she knows more than she does.
She is very wise.
She's hard on Elend.
Then she probably does so because it is best for him. Do not judge her too harshly, child. If she seems off-putting, it is only because she has lived a very hard life.
Hard life?
Vin asked, tucking her notes back into her pocket. Yes, Lady Wynn. You see, Tyndville spent most of her years as a terrace mother. Called it...
But the extent? I don't know if you... The extent...
Not the extent. Well, I disagree. I think that was more like what I had expected, yeah.
Yeah, I think it is, because you did say it's like breed, like they used her for breeding, so it would be that extent. Yeah. It's not 2 or 3, yeah.
Vin hesitated, hand in pocket, looking surprised.
You mean she was a breeder?
Sazed nodded. The Lord Ruler's breeding program, including selecting a few special individuals to use for birthing new children, with the goal being to breed Feruchemy out of the population. Tyndville had, at last count, birthed over 20 children, each with a different father. Tyndville had her first child when she was 14, and spent her entire life being taken repeatedly by strange men until she became pregnant. And because of the fertility drugs the breeding masters forced upon her, she often bore twins or triplets.
Jeez! Oh, she's put into, like, listen, motherhood, great, but I don't think that's how it worked. It wasn't, she gets to take care of the babies.
No, they're probably taken from her.
Yeah, it's a breeding program. She pops them out, and we need the next one. She doesn't feed them. She doesn't. Oh God! And I'm just like, okay, Rashek. So you wanted the terrorist people to continue, but you wanted Feruchemy out of it. So I'm like, oh yes, I hate him
so much so. And obviously, this seems more dangerous than hysterectomies. There's no actual drug, like IRL drug, that can higher the chance of twins or triplets, is there?
No, it's more the process of IVF that increases the chances of twins. A lot of the time with IVF, you will end up with twins.
Interesting, because I did know that IVF's a thing. I assumed that increases the odds of fertility, but I didn't know if it was connected to twins or triplets.
Yeah,
and so on.
No, it is like my godchildren. They are twins from through IVF, but I'm not too sure about, because obviously they put you on certain drugs that help you with the process. I'm not too sure exactly how it works, but the actual method of fertilization is what makes you have twins, not like just making you more susceptible to them. So.
Interesting.
But yeah, cool in-world thing. They've decided he's made it that way. It's believable. Makes sense.
Yep.
I see.
You are not the only one who endured a terrible childhood, Lady Wynn. Tyndville is perhaps the strongest woman I know.
How does she bear it? I think I would probably just have killed myself.
She is a keeper. She suffered the indignity because she knew that she did a great service for her people. You see, feruchemy is hereditary. Tinville's position as a mother ensured future generations of feruchemists among our people. Ironically, she is exactly the sort of person that the breeding masters were supposed to avoid letting reproduce.
But how did such a thing happen?
The breeding masters assumed they'd already cut feruchemy out of the population. They started looking to create other traits in the terrace: docility, temperance. They bred us like fine horses, and it was a great stroke when the Synod managed to get Tinville chosen for their program.
That really is a good stroke. As much as it's a horrible life for her, it really does help keep feruchemy alive. It's a great implant. It's a great, spy thing. So she has done a great service to her people through all of those children.
Yeah. Hers is a tough road, but there is great importance to it.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, Tinville has very little training in feruchemy. She did fortunately receive some of the copper mines that we keepers carry, so during her many years locked away, she was able to study and read biographies. It was only during the last decade, her childbearing years through, that she was able to join and gain fellowship with the other keepers. Sazed shook his head. By comparison, the rest of us have known a life of freedom, I think.
So just going back to your themes of outsiders and things like that, Tinville actually was a bit of an outsider.
Oh yeah, very isolated away.
Not in a bad way that they did it on purpose. They don't like her. It was literally she was off doing something very important. Then she came back and she had to become a keeper as well. So she's definitely a strong woman to have also risen in the keepers, I suppose.
Yeah.
Great.
Vin mumbled, standing and yawning.
Another reason for you to feel guilty.
You should sleep, Lady Wynn.
For a few hours.
Vin said, walking toward the door, leaving him alone again with his studies.
Was that a satisfying end? I don't think so.
Not great in terms of being a satisfying ending, but it's well written, don't get me wrong. It's just I want more.
Yeah. It's okay, well, they've had... Look, it's what it's done is given them a lot to think about over the next few chapters. And
agreed.
The plot thickens.
The thought plickens, indeed. Yeah, I'd say this was a necessary chapter. I'm overall not entirely satisfied with any new revelations out of Kwan's journal. I wish we'd get to some real meat. I'm wondering if by the end of this we'll look back and realize that we missed all of the meat. But nevertheless, here we are now.
Yeah.
I'm very glad that Vin and Sazed had many interactions throughout this, defining that Reshek was not the hero of ages and that therefore the deepness was not stopped. I'm glad that Vin has vocalized that she thinks she's the hero of ages. I say vocalized, I mean communicated to someone that isn't her, that she thinks that.
So even if she starts to doubt, at least there's somebody else that could be looking out for it. And also, we know that Sazed's going to know a lot more about spotting the hero of ages, hopefully. Look, it's not the huge revelation we were hoping for when the last episode where it's I know what the deepness is. And oh my God, what is the deepness? That's great. And then it's just a theory. I know, I don't think I fully expected knowing exactly what it is. I don't think that was going to happen, but it was exciting to think about.
Yeah.
Good chapter.
Indeed. But that's just a theory. A deep theory. No, that's terrible.
I enjoyed it.
Oh, gosh. Thank you all for tuning in. Subscribe to That Darn Kitta if you get a chance, because she's got a great channel. And we'll see you next week. Okay, thanks, bye.